Miami Hurricanes are favored to win the Pop Tarts Bowl, but it's not going to be easy. Here's how the Miami Hurricanes match up with the Iowa State Cyclones.
You are Locked On Canes, your daily podcast on the Miami Hurricanes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
I am Alex Donno, University of Miami alumnus, co-host of Locked On ACC and writer for Canes County at Rivals, and I had a strawberry frosted Pop-Tart for breakfast this morning. Thank you so much for making Locked On Canes your first listen and your first watch today. We're available free wherever you get your podcasts. We're free on YouTube. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. On this loaded post-Christmas, happy holidays and Merry Christmas to everyone, episode of Locked On Canes, we're going to talk some scouting reports for new Miami Hurricanes. We're going to talk about the quarterback situation because our guest today is very passionate about it. And yeah, we're going to talk about the Pop Tarts Bowl coming up on Saturday. Always great here having the man, the myth, the legend, Larry Bluestein with us, who has been scouting players for more years than either of us can count, does awesome work on 560 WQAM, the 5 Reasons Sports Network, Prep Red Zone. Blue, first of all, Larry, for any Miami fan who's looking at the Pop-Tart Bowl against Iowa State as potentially an easy win or a cakewalk, we should just play the young guys and win the game. Iowa State, a 10-win team, and they've got some firepower, Blue.
Yeah, happy holidays to you and everybody out there. And certainly my favorite Pop-Tart is the chocolate fudge one. And I put it in the toaster, get it warm, and put ice cream on it.
Oh, that's like a whole dessert you made. You turned the breakfast pastry
I'm
into
taking
dessert.
that to a whole different level. But yeah, I mean, let's face it, with everything the way it's been, Iowa State and Coach Matt Campbell's been building this program for a long time, Alex. And, when I've had an opportunity to see their quarterback, Rocco Beck, from a Tampa kid, went to Wiregrass Ranch. His dad obviously played with the Tampa Bay Bucks back in the day. But this is a big-time kid. I mean, he's only in his second year, coming up on his third year, and he's already closing in on the all-time leading passing record at the school. He's got weapons around him. We talked about Jaden Higgins. Jaden came out of South Miami and then transferred over to Westminster Christian. Your
alma mater. Yeah.
Yes. And then went to Eastern Kentucky, and he's one of the top receivers in the Big 12 and has done a tremendous job between him and Benny Nagoya and in the running game. They've been able to run the ball with Abu Sama pretty well. And then also, Carson Hansen and they're big up front. And that's the one thing people don't realize. I mean, this is a team, that, and they're not senior oriented, they do have Tyler Miller, who's, a senior, but they're big up front. They run the ball. They average 36 points a game, which is 4th in the nation. So they're not, they're no slouch on the offensive side of the ball. And obviously defensively, they're going to have their hands full, especially up front, trying to contain Miami. And, Miami's not going to, for you people think that Miami's going to use young players. No, this is an opportunity for, guys like Cam and Martinez and everybody to go out and Restrepo to go out with a great feeling. And as you mentioned, an 11-win season. I mean, they're pretty good up front. The Dominique Orange kid is real good, but they're going to have their hands full as far as defense. And like I said, this is an offensive show. I mean, I think everybody is going, and I've said this over and over again on our Monday night podcast and on the 5 Reasons Network and the 6 Ring Canes show, that it's going to be entertaining. And I kind of chuckle when I see the over-under is
55 and a half
points, because these are two teams that have an opportunity to put up 85, 90 points in the game, and it's going to be entertaining. I mean, we're not going to hide anything. Miami in the last 5 weeks didn't all of a sudden get a great defense. And then, and the same thing with Iowa State, who, is a lot, and they're like mirror teams, when you look at it. Miami probably runs the ball a little bit better with a lot more depth, but as far as, just pure passing, Rocco Beck is in there with anybody. I mean, he throws the ball around real well. I mean, like I said, they're big up front, and they have really good receivers. I mean, so they're really talented in the fact that they really mirror image Miami. As far as their capabilities, Miami's offensive line's real good. The running game's real good. Also, the receivers, obviously, minus Isaiah Horton, which kind of was a mystery to me, because I thought that he felt that he was going to get an opportunity. Obviously, he's going to go to Alabama, it looks like. But and on the defensive side, certainly Miami having their problems, the whole year. The defensive line play kind of disappeared at times. Their linebacker play was very inconsistent, which added up to kind of an average secondary. And, getting opportunity during the break to talk to a couple of people, that they're close to that situation, said, listen, they had a better front seven. The secondary weaknesses wouldn't be as glaring, I mean, and that could be said for any team, though, Alex. I mean, if your front seven's not putting pressure on, and your secondary's having to roam out there for 5 minutes, it's going to be awfully tough to cover anybody. But yeah, I think it sets up for a real good game. The fans, like I said, this is not your grandfather's Iowa State team. Believe me, this isn't back in the days when they used to take their lumps and we're 2-9, and that was it. And then they pack in things. But program, I think, for the last 4 years has been in bowl games. Campbell's a great coach. He's done a tremendous job. He's had his opportunities to leave. But, a Power 4 job is a Power 4 job these days, and you want to kind of, building a program is not easy. And, but, and everybody, and, it's funny because I posted something, I think, last week on Facebook where everyone, talks about this program or that program being stepping stone. Every program in the country is a stepping stone. Ohio State included, so I mean, it's, everybody nowadays with NIL deals and the portal wide open, where you're going where the best deal is. So, you'll leave a Penn State tomorrow to go to a SMU, it's just because that's where this has turned into be one of those financial crazy situations. And these kids are running, there's loyalty, that's why you look at Xavier Restrepo, and you got to hold him in high esteem because he stayed the entire time, and that's something you're not going to see much of anymore. It's just not going to happen, and and it's not the fault of the players or anything like that. It's just that it's a human nature type of thing. You and I, as loyal as we may be, if somebody's going to dangle X amount of dollars in front of us with a brighter future, you're going to go, and that's it's just the nature of the beast. So you've got to develop the kids that you have while you have them.
So I don't know if you know a definitive answer to this, but we don't. Miami's probably going to have a few opt-outs. We know that Cam Ward is playing, Damian Martinez are playing. Do you know for sure about Xavier Restrepo? I've heard conflicting reports there. Do you think he's going to play?
He's supposed to, I talked to my little insight is Xavier is Borregales. We talk a lot. I saw him at one of the Chaminade games towards the end of the year, and I also saw him at the All-Star game last week. And he seems to think that basically everybody,
good,
is going to play.
Good.
And be part of the experience. And, the old adage of getting injured, it kind of is a little bit humorous. That's for agents. You see, the agents.
Oh, yeah.
That's agent speak. That's not the kids speaking, and they'll tell you, because most of them never played a down of football in their life. So they're going to go give you, all the X's and O's from the financial standpoint, but yet, they're not going to stop you from playing in a conference championship, or they're not going to stop you from playing in a first round, a playoff game, but they'll sure as hell try to get you out of a bowl game, which, I have my strong feelings on that because, not only am I old school from that standpoint, you don't have to be old school to understand that these bowl games mean so much to these kids. It's kind of a reward at the end of the year, for a job well done. They treat them like kings. I mean, they get a lot of good, gear when they go to these games. They go to, children's hospitals. They go to banquets. It's just a great experience for the kids to walk out after, after a time, and especially Miami, who hasn't had much success in bowl games. This is a good opportunity to be in state, and play, in a game. And, a lot of people, well, it's disappointing because Miami figured to be a top 12 team. But at the same time, Iowa State came down to that last game with the same thing with Arizona State and had the opportunity to do the same thing. So Miami and Iowa State are a lot similar than most people believe they are.
Well, there's a lot more we want to talk about here with Larry Bluestein, including scouting reports on some of the incoming Miami Hurricanes. A couple guys had great success in their state championships in Florida and in Georgia. We want to talk about the quarterback situation. I want to get Blue's take on the importance of getting that one more win, because I know you're not in the playoff. Everyone's disappointed. So some of us may kind of downplay, a non-CFP bowl game, but how significant would it be to win one more game and win 11? We'll get Larry Bluestein's take on that and so much more when we come back. My friends, we're only getting started. Post-Christmas episode of Locked On Canes. You want to keep it locked right here. Oh, I'm only getting started with FanDuel. And guys, we mentioned a couple of the numbers. Miami Hurricanes are 3.5-point favorites for Saturday against Iowa State. And the over-under, Blue and I agree, it seems way too low for these teams that can score a lot of points, 55.5. So no matter which side you take, you're probably taking the Hurricanes if you're watching this, but you probably want to smash that over for the Pop Tarts Bowl. And the NFL playoffs are almost here, but it's not too late to get in on the regular season action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers can finish the season strong with $250 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. FanDuel has so many ways for you to pick up a dub. I love betting on which players will score a touchdown and how many points each team will score. It's thrilling. Not only can you bet on who will win the game, but FanDuel also has bets for which players will score a touchdown, how many points each team will score, and so much more. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your chance at $250 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Thank you so much for making this episode of Locked On Canes your first listen and your first watch today. Make sure for your next listen, you check out Locked On College Football. Spencer McLaughlin does an awesome job talking about all the CFP action, transfer portal chaos. You can check it all out free, like this show. Locked On College Football is free wherever you get your podcasts, and it's free on YouTube. Blue, you mentioned Miami not having a lot of success over the years in bowl games. The last bowl game that they won was in Orlando. But they've lost some in Orlando since. But maybe this game will be good luck. In Orlando, 2016, they beat West Virginia. And then, maybe it was a coincidence, but they went on to win their first 10 games of 2017. They had an opportunity that year to be in the CFP. They missed out. How significant, Blue, would it be in your eyes to win an 11th game for the first time since 2003? And can any of that momentum carry over to next year?
No,
sorry, I had you muted. Can you start over? That was my bad.
It's always great to win, Alex. You know that. I mean, you're in a situation where, the following recruiting cycle, you can say, hey, we had 11 wins. We won our bowl game. We had a bunch of kids play, that were seniors or that were, moving on to their next chapter in life. But things are and from a momentum standpoint, it's so different these days because you look at your roster changing. And last year at this time, playing Rutgers in a Pinstripe Bowl and then coming back in the spring, look at your roster. We're so different. You had so many different new faces, and it's good for the guys that are coming back to have that momentum. It's good for the coaching staff, good for the fans, obviously. So a win is a win, no matter how you slice it. Recruiting wise, I just think that, people make too much of a game or a situation or a win or a loss these days when everything's so changeable over a year's period. You can be loyal this year, but all of a sudden you're not so loyal next year. I just think it's the bottom line is a win is great. An 11-win season, I think it's come down more for the fans than it has the players, because the fans are always going to be there. The players could be changing uniforms every year. So I just think from that standpoint, I think it's going to be great, great talk. And I think Miami's going to have a real good crowd, there, because I just think that, everybody who was sore in the butt after the Syracuse loss, they've had some time to heal. And obviously you can't ever get over a game like that, especially when you're looking and seeing how things played out, with SMU and things, how they played out, with other programs like Indiana in the playoffs. And, I'm not a second guesser, and I hear all these people, well, this team should have made it and that team should have made it. But you know what? Let's kind of trace back to the Alabama team that everybody's, they should have been in there. They also got their butt kicked at Oklahoma, and it could have easily happened in the playoffs against a Penn State or a Notre Dame. So, you know what it is what it is. And you know what, Miami didn't make it this year, but that's kind of a learning lesson that, you can't lose tough games like that. You've got to kind of gear up. And if you're going to lose, let's lose early, and I know that's easier said than done, but, I just think that this bowl game is going to mean a lot to the kids and, to the program itself moving forward. But I don't think it's going to be a barometer on who you get or who you lose, So I just think, but for the program, 11 wins is great. I mean, especially in college football nowadays, 11 wins is gold.
So let's talk about Miami's quarterback situation heading into next year. According to reports, Miami made a run at John Mateer from Washington State, but he ended up signing with Oklahoma. It seems like the Hurricanes, though, probably wisely so, have been pretty cautious. Like, they didn't really go after Fernando Mendoza, who landed at Indiana. They didn't really go after Darian Mensah, who landed at Duke for a reportedly $8 million price tag to the Duke Blue Devils. I've been saying this, Blue, for the past couple of weeks, that I understand maybe Miami might be interested if they feel like the perfect right quarterback becomes available. But I've been saying proceed with caution, because if you start this trend where you're plucking a quarterback out of the transfer portal every single year, you're never given a chance to the guys you recruit out of high school to play. And how do you expect to keep your quarterback room together if they know you're going to dip into the portal for a quarterback every single season? Like, at some point, you've got to see what you have. And Blue, if the big argument against a guy like Emory Williams would be, well, hey, he doesn't have a lot of experience, right? That's why we need to get a poll. Well, how do you ever get experience if they don't give you a chance to play? So what do you think should happen next year for the quarterback room?
Yeah. Well, you come up with a Cam Ward once every 80 years. You're not going to get a guy like that who defines a program and comes in and sets all type of records. So you could kind of put that in the back burner. And I'm not against bringing in a quarterback every year, because you have to have a load of, room. And, and obviously if you bring in any of these quarterbacks who are out there that are going to come to Miami, I mean, are good quarterbacks, but you've got to give people like Emory Williams and Judd Anderson and people like that an opportunity, because if you don't, they're going to leave. It's 1,000,000,000% they're gone. Okay. So, and why do you recruit quarterbacks if you're not going to develop them? And the same thing is everyone's talking about Luke Nichel, but what about next year if one of these hotshot juniors has a great year, or sophomores has a great year, and they're throw for 4,300 yards and 50 touchdowns, and Miami has a chance to get them, you're going to bring them in. And that's the thing that I have. You in this day and age, as it is, there's no guarantee that if you start an Emory Williams and he has a banner year, that he'll stay. That's the whole thing. So you've got to kind of develop what you have when you have it. And I'm a stern believer in the fact that your quarterback position, more than any place on that whole team, has to be something solidified. It has to be like rock solid. And it's got to be something, because it's such a leadership position that these kids are, and you ask anybody on that team, and there's not one offensive player that'll talk bad about Emory Williams. They always talk about his arm strength. Probably has as strong arm as anybody on the team. But the only thing he kind of lacks is that experience. Well, give it to him. I mean, obviously, people didn't, think twice about, putting Cam in the first game, untested as far as being here. He was tested out in a Pac-12 that played basically no defense. And his first game was against Florida in Gainesville. And that's not always going to be a plus. You look back at some of the Hurricanes who had their first games. You got to have a first game somewhere. Bernie Kosar lost against Florida, but then came back and won a national title. So you have to have a situation where you believe in what you have. And there's no way they can't believe in Emory Williams as a quarterback. He checks all the boxes. He came in, beat Clemson, came in and probably gave them one of the best efforts a quarterback could give him against Florida State in Tallahassee before getting hurt. So I'm an advocate of that. Bringing in a Reese Paffenbarger, okay, that's fine. Right. That type of guy.
Better in depth. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I agree. It's fine. But don't ever be in a situation where you go up to a Mateer or a Mendoza and say, oh, yeah, you come here, you're going to start, because all you're going to do is empty out your room. If he competes, if whoever comes in here and competes for the job and wins it, so be it. Okay, they won it. They won the position, but don't anoint them as a starting quarterback and make the guys who are here, who've been in that room for 2 and 3 years and have learned the playbook and have learned everything, about the coaches and about the environment. Don't make them feel that they're an outcast, because they're not. They're guys that you coveted coming out of high school. They love the fact that they beat, that Frank Ponce at the time beat everybody to the punch and got Emory Williams when nobody knew anything about him. Same thing with Judd Anderson. Everybody kind of toyed with the fact, and I know you know a lot about him, having him on your, podcast quite a bit. And the same thing with Luke Nichel. Here's a kid, it's a big time kid. Georgia still wants him. Georgia would take him off Miami's hands tomorrow. So, let's be a little bit loyal to the guys and give them a chance to develop, because you've recruited these guys in high esteem for some reason. And, and everybody out there is yelling at me, oh, no, you got to get the best guy. Okay, we'll bring in the best guy, but at least give the guys you have here the opportunity to lose the job rather than give it to somebody without them really competing for the position.
Well, in Miami, they've got talent, unproven talent, but they have talent in the quarterback room, including Luke Nichel coming in, who just won another state championship. And like Blue mentioned, Georgia would be happy to take him off of Miami's hands
yesterday.
I want to talk a little bit about Nichel when we come back. I want to talk about Malachi Tony, who just had Mr. Florida football just had an incredible postseason run with American heritage. And I want to talk about the transfers Miami has brought in already. You want to keep it locked right here. Larry Bluestein is one of the best resources out there. We're so honored to have him with us right here on this brand new episode of Locked On Canes. Folks, the spot to get your Pop Tarts Bowl tickets is Game Time. The prices keep going down. I think I mentioned a couple days ago, I was looking at $42 tickets to Camping World Stadium, Miami versus Iowa State. I'm now looking at $40 tickets available on the Game Time app, and the prices will probably keep going down over the next couple of days before kickoff. And guys, Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for live events even easier. Game Time Picks filters out all the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. And guys, the holidays are all about togetherness, and that's what Game Time is promoting here. We can all be together at these great sporting events, these great concerts. Folks, some other features on the Game Time app that I love. Game Time Picks, we mentioned, all-in pricing feature is awesome. Shows you the total up front with no surprise fees at checkout. You can get a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy. And the Game Time lowest price guarantee means Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference if you find tickets in the same section and row for less. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Terms apply. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Oh, it's game time. Thank you so much for making Locked On Canes your first listen and your first watch today. By the way, make sure you subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, the Odyssey app, YouTube, wherever you get your podcast. Locked On Canes is available, and it's free. So this is like a free holiday gift you can give to yourself. And we have the great Larry Bluestein on with us here. All right, so Blue, you mentioned Miami has a player that I think is an absolute treasure coming in. He's enrolling early in January to play quarterback here at the University of Miami. I feel like he's been underrated throughout his recruiting process, despite the fact that he's winning championships left and right, state championships, 7-on-7 championships. Luke Nichel, quarterback out of Milton High School in Georgia, has been rising through the ranks. What did you make of his latest state championship run where he threw for over 400 in the title game? And what is Miami getting here out of Nichel?
Yeah, big time kid. And probably the reason being that everybody has kind of had a chance to pick him apart is because he's never wavered from day one when he committed to Miami almost 2 years ago.
Yeah.
He's always been 100% a Miami Hurricane. And you got to realize when you're in that area of Georgia and the Atlanta area, and I mean, look at how many programs can pick away at you. They got all the ACC teams, all the SEC teams that recruit that area heavily, and put some doubt into his mind at all times or at every game, because he has other guys on his team that are pretty darn good too. So, I mean, this is somebody who's wanted to be a Hurricane from day one. His relationship with Coach Dawson has been unbelievable. Every time he's come down here, he's felt so at home, and it's a place where he'd really like to settle in. He's a beast. I mean, let's face it. I mean, in Georgia, you just don't win state titles like that. Last year, after losing a couple at the beginning, they reeled off 14 straight, beat 3 undefeated teams at the end of the year, and the kid was threw for almost 4,000 yards. This year, as you mentioned, same thing, only got better and better. Started his season off right down here, again against American Heritage and Diabell to start the season off, and they won the game, probably their closest game of the whole year. Yeah. It shows you what American Heritage was all about. But here's somebody all year long pecked away and had 300 and 400-yard games, as you said, in the ultimate contest in the state title game to finish undefeated, the number 2 team in the nation behind Mater Dei. I mean, he's got ice water in his veins. There's not going to be a stage too big for him because he's been, you play in this, in Atlanta, and you play in the Dome, and and then there you got 25,000-30,000 people. Obviously, it's going to be an opportunity for him to understand the culture of what it's all about at the next level. Great kid, great student, fast learner, team player. Yeah, he brings everything to the table, and Miami's extremely fortunate to add him to Emory Williams and Judd Anderson and whoever else they may bring in.
All right, you mentioned American Heritage as well, and how about Malachi Tony? And I'm so glad he wound up at Miami, because I know there was the reclassification. He temporarily decommitted. He recommitted to Miami. He goes out there and he actually plays quarterback at the end of the year with DFL injured. Yeah. Miami's got him coming in as a receiver. Maybe that's your emergency quarterback, Blue. If you don't have a 4th quarterback on the roster, Malachi Tony, who Nat Moore Award, Mr. Florida football. I mean, Miami has a dude coming in from American Heritage.
Yeah, it's funny you bring that up, because in the state championship game against Orlando Jones, matched against the 2026 Miami commitment and Darian Coleman, a lot of people are coming up and they go, if you didn't really know which quarterback Miami recruited, you would think it would be Malachi, the way he played, because listen, Alex, sometimes when you have a guy, that you put in there and he has to be serviceable. Well, he was more than serviceable. He threw the ball extremely well. Obviously, he's a freak of an athlete. He's plug and play. Miami can't sit him when he'll be in the rotation right away. He should be their starting a kick returner, because I love Chris Johnson, great kid, but he was nowhere near a kick returner. He was probably one of the worst in the nation. I mean, the kid ran a 4.27 40, but all he did was sprint 30 yards into somebody's back. Right. And this is a guy, Malachi Tony, that knows all about how to read wedges and how to read blocking schemes. And you can't not put somebody like that in there from the beginning. He's going to be like a Lyles was, because he's going to be somebody who gets it right away. You remember you put Lyles in some of those big games, and here's a true freshman who performed against elite power forward type of talent. Yeah, he's a dude. And obviously, you're losing some playmakers on that, receiving core. So he's going to be given every opportunity, that, Nichel and some of the other guys who were young kids last year will get, because he has no reservations. He doesn't care about the competition. He just knows what he's able to do. And just a huge get. When he decommitted at the time, there were some nervous people because they felt that somebody else would have swayed him away. But he's going to be that guy, and Miami's going to get somebody right away that could help them too.
So far in the transfer portal, Miami has only brought in four transfers, but the average is actually the highest in the country if you go by like the quality of the players. And the Canes aren't done yet in the portal, but addressing the defense in a big way, Blue, bringing in all these guys with 4-star averages as portal prospects. Zechariah Poyser, safety, he can play nickel as well. Cornerback Charles Brantley, defensive tackle David Blay, CJ Daniels at wide receiver. What do you make so far of Cristobal's portal class in the early stages?
Well, Brantley's a first-hand guy. I watched him at Venice High School before he went to Michigan State. Big-time kid. Another guy that comes in. He's day one starter. He really is. He's that type of player. He's so athletic. He's also does punt returns, but you're going to rely on him to kind of shore up that secondary. And remember, the one thing that you got to understand too is your secondary is only as good as what you bring up front. And certainly Miami's trying to address that as well. Remember, you still got Bain coming back. You got a lot of talent that'll be back up front. Hopefully that your linebacking core is going to be better than it was last year. There's no mistaking that Mawanoa didn't have the year that he had the year before. Wesley Bassane kind of same thing. So if you have him, you have Aguirre that comes in there, who I think has as much promise as anybody in that linebacking core. The Daniels kid definitely is going to make a difference. Everybody and their mother wanted him.
Yeah.
This is a guy that's a big time talent. I think that everybody's proven that, that you watch him play, you watch some of the talent, some of the people that he's gone up against, and he's always, come out on top. The Slay kid's the same way. He's a big time type of player. Watch his film and you'll understand that the kid comes to play at a high level every week. And the Pointer kids, when you take a look at him, and I will look at Jacksonville State, because they had a couple of kids on that team that could play. And I watched his game, and, because somebody had told me, they go, well, there's a kid at Jacksonville State. So I look back at his film, and I'm thinking, I hope it's this guy, because this guy's making plays. He covers, he'll hit you. He reads extremely well. And, he's the type of guy you figure, wow, how did people miss on him early on? But he developed and got better and better. And, it's sort of like, the Higgins kid that we were talking about from Iowa State, who started out at Eastern Kentucky, from Westminster Christian. He developed. And that's the one thing that goes right back to what I've been saying about the quarterback. Give him a chance to develop. Give him don't just all of a sudden say, well, I don't know if they can help us, without watching them develop, because you're going to be sorry later on when they do develop and it's not, in your camp that they're doing it.
Yeah, no, well said, all of it. You guys want to make sure you check out Larry Bluestein. Blue, when is the next show? Your radio show is the most informative in the country. When is your next show on 560 WQAM? Where can people see you and hear you?
Yeah, we're on Monday night. Tuesday, obviously, is New Year's Eve. So Monday, we're on Monday night, 6-8, kind of a lead into the Panthers hockey. And then I believe the following week, we'll be back on a Monday night again. So yeah, it's really neat, because this is a great time of year. There's a lot of camps going on, a lot of all-star games. We have the Under Armour game, which I'll be at next week. And you have a lot of guys be playing in that for, 15 Floridians will be playing in it. And we'll get an opportunity to see a lot of talent before a lot of them head off to college. A lot of them are early enrollees. So the following that Under Armour game next week, they'll be heading out to colleges, and they've done something different this year where they're adding the underclassmen. So we'll get a chance to see, kids like Cooper, who, Derek Cooper from Chaminade Madonna, obviously one of the best. He was Prep Red Zone's #1 player in our new 2026 list from the state of Florida, 10th overall in the country. There's a kid that's really come out of nowhere. Hopefully Miami could stay on him and make some, positive things happen. So we're excited about it, to bring everybody firsthand information. Like I said, we go to everything. We'll go to all the 7-on-7s, even though, they become monotonous after a while. You see the same kids in shorts and t-shirt, but it's good. It's good to do that. And then before long, we'll have some really good camps. And then, spring will be here before you know it for the colleges, and then spring for the high schools, and right back into the summer. But we never go away, and we're there firsthand and seeing everything.
I love it. And make sure you guys follow Blue on X at Prep Red Zone FL. He's Larry Bluestein. I am Alex Donno. Thank you so much for making Locked On Canes your first listen and your first watch today, guys. Again, make sure you subscribe. The audio version is awesome. Take us with you wherever you go, on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your pods. Subscribe on YouTube. Smash that like button. And we'll talk to you again tomorrow on another episode of Locked On Canes, part of the awesome Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.